So hi, I'm Ben Westbeech, aka Breach, and we're in my studio in Amsterdam, and I'm basically just gonna make a beat just off the top, basically, so you can see how I work, what sort of processes I use, and yeah, basically just see me make a tune. I first started using Cubase probably 10 years ago, or something like that. It's the first thing I learned to produce on, that and Reason as well, actually, but integrated together, rewired through. Yeah, it was the first thing I learned, and then I never moved, you know. I think there was like everyone, I think you either learn one thing and then, you know, if you really don't like something about it, then move. But I think what was great about Cubase was that everyone, I mean, I started on PC, but then I moved to Mac, and there's still people come to the studio and they're like, you can get Cubase for Mac? And I'm like, you've been able to get Cubase for Mac for like years. They're like, oh, it was just a PC thing, and I think a lot more people are sort of getting into it, and it's come on leaps and bounds like through the years. The chord stuff this year was insane. You know, that's really sort of taken my music making to the next level, and I mean the sound engine's amazing, and I love the mixer stuff with the routing. It just saves so much time. You know, clicking on one thing and selecting. Now you can just route all of the channels to one place, and it's just time saving, and it's just, you know, if you get the right working environment, you can be super quick. Okay, so we're going to start, I start with a beat basically pretty much all the time. So let's open battery. So we want to, I'll just load like maybe a kit that I've used before or built before. There we go. Okay, change that sound quickly to that, and there we go. Okay, so you'll choose your track tempo. I don't know what I've chosen today, like 1, let me just see the transport window. It's 1, 2, 2. So I'll start with just a click, probably just press C to control click in Cubase so you can hear that. So I'll just do a kick pattern to that. Okay. So I'm going to press Q to quantize that. And if I move that down and duplicate it, I'll open that up, which has doubled it. But then if I put it up on the next line, I'll have like a top kick, so I can turn the click off now. Got a nice kick drum, fall to the floor pattern going. So after that, we want like a hi-hat probably. So there you go, we got a hi-hat there. So I mean, I basically have my drums set up sort of to a usual drum machine, so all my patterns will be the same. I have like a kick, a hi-hat, a clap, always in the same place on here, so it's nice and quick and easy to go through, and then I just change them for every tune. So I'll start with this kit, and then maybe if I put those kicks down, we can then change, like maybe if we don't like the sound of this top kick, we go to kicks on here. That kind of sounds cool, so I'll press this button. It's kind of cool, glitchy sort of sound. You know, kind of cool. Yeah, nice top kick. And turn that off, so that's saved in there now. So let's get. That's a really nice sound. So onto a new channel. Record. Okay, those four sound good. So I'll press Q and quantize those. And then we've got a nice pattern to start off with. Okay, I mean that's kind of cool. So then we'd obviously need like another hi-hat pattern maybe. Yeah, that's pretty cool. To record. Okay, 2 bars is usually enough unless you want to do like a 4-bar pattern and change the rhythm. But that, for when you're starting out, just to get a rhythm that's really flowing is the most important thing. So, okay, cool, save, always save. Okay, I kind of like that, but the hi-hat sound's not really working for me right now. So, go to get an open hi-hat from somewhere. Try 7707. Oh, that's really nice. Okay, that's just an 808. It's just been pitched down a bit, and then I've also just cut the frequencies as well on the filter, so it's kind of like in your face. I kind of like it. Yeah, it's got a vibe to it for sure. Okay, so you've got a really basic drum pattern, and then I'll want to, you know, come with some sort of melodic idea, or, you know, try a synth out. So basically, I have this thing here which is called a Doherty dark time. It's basically an analog MIDI sequencer, and so it basically sends MIDI to a synth of your choice. I've chosen to send it to the Prophet 12 today, and it basically just comes up with patterns that you can control on here. But it's, instead of like having a keyboard, it will play completely different rhythms and patterns that you would ever really come up with in your brain, I think. Well, for me anyway, you know, these patterns are quite hard to come up with, sort of, if you're going to have to play them and sequence them. So this is kind of an interesting tool. It's, you know, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it just won't do what you want it to do, but, you know, it's a way to start off a tune. So let's try and get this involved. Now what I've done is set it up through the USB MIDI, and in Cubase what you do is you press the control button and go into the project synchronization setup, and basically you want to control the MIDI from the clock out on Cubase. So basically any time I'll press play, that will start this off on a sequence. So you find it on here, you've got USB MIDI dark time, you click that box, okay, switch this to MIDI USB so it knows it's controlling it, and then you've got some lovely German techno. No, I'm joking. Right, okay, you've basically got something happening, you know, it's going into the Prophet. So the pattern, I'm not sure about the pattern, it's a bit very trancey. So look, you just go through. Okay, that's pretty dope. So see, I don't really like the bottom end, so I'll just take the. That's kind of cool. Yeah, that'll work. It's kind of rhythmical. Oh, that's bad. What I've done there is just stopped how many steps is happening on the Doherty. That's really nice though, so it's creating lots of tension, that's cool. So I'll add an audio track to record. Let's just make sure the connections are set up properly. The Prophet into the Neve. into 3 and 4 on the apogee on your sound card. Basically it's going through the Neve, it just gives it you know, a nice sound, a nice bit of warmth. So in here, stir it in 2 and hopefully, yeah, it's coming in slightly latent, so we'll have to move that over. But just press record and it's going straight in, so you've got, you know, analog signal going straight into the sound card. Easy as that. You've recorded that, so you've got a line there to use. And then what you can of course do is take that audio out. Why is that doing that? That's like going up there. So you can hear that's gone in like a little bit latent. So what I've done there is just taken off the quantize at the top, so I can then just move the audio around freely. I'm a firm believer in just sort of balancing audio straight away. I know a lot of people sort of spend a lot of time getting the sound just right, but I just tend to, if I've got the sound there, I'm like, it's in my head, I'm like bang, straight to audio. Because you can do so much with audio in DAWs now, it's just insane. So I always, you know, bounce down quite quickly and then just get the groove of the track going, and then if I want to come back to the sound I can go and really you know, fuck with all the different sort of knobs and controllers on all of the synths, and then sort of put stuff in live and then record it live. So we've got this, it's kind of like a rhythmical idea going on. And that's just like, basically if I was then to record that in straight away, because it's sort of kind of gone off with what this is doing. So look, I can just record that. And that's just a complete mistake that's happened, to be honest, with the Doherty going in and out of time. Basically just created like a mad pattern out of just the Doherty and the Prophet on one preset. So that's rolling, and then that's how I'll start an idea. Try another preset on here. See, I don't really like the pattern on the dark time anymore, so maybe we'll move from this or just try another pattern on the dark time just to see what we can get out of it. I think it's quite an interesting machine, because you get different results every time out of it. it's created like another line, you know, like another, like maybe a bass line or something else to go on. So but then I'm thinking, oh, do I really like that sound? So let's try maybe something out of the Juno. So I'll just patch the Juno straight in. This is, I mean, this is like the classic sort of bassline sound. That's pretty cool. I like the sound of that. Okay, so you remember that's D, B, and F. So let's just get this going. Yeah, dope. I like that straight away, so I'm just going to record that in straight away. I just like it, it's cool. So that'll have gone straight in as audio to Cubase. And then what I'll probably do with that, because I like, you know, with the bass line, you want to keep the pattern going. I'll have that in an idea. So the idea is definitely there. So if I'm doing anything technical, I'm not going to forget what I've just done, because I think that's really important. Sometimes you can play lines and then you'll be like, oh, that's running. And then you'll get to the computer, set up the channels, and then you'll be like, oh, what the fuck did I just play? Do you know what I mean? So you have to, it's important, I think, to always get your ideas down. Even just put them in your phone. Be just like, you do a riff and you're like, that's riffing, let's go and put it into the phone, or just quickly, so you don't forget where or what you're doing, you know, because I think you can just lose your way so much sometimes. So that's rolling. Okay, cool. I kind of like it, just like the unquantized version's cool. Okay, it goes a little bit out of time, so this loop's good. And I can hear like a flanger on this, like, so we'll just go to the Cubase flanger, which is great. Also, that is a little bit, it's got quite a lot of bass sound that I don't really want in it, because you can hear that, so I'm just gonna roll that off. And also the I just use the Roomworks one a lot in Cubase because it's so good. And you hear that straight away. It's just, I mean, that to me is like, that's the intro sorted of the tune. So quickly arrange, got a vibe going for sure. Yeah, that's dope. Okay, cool. Let's get your drums up here. Move those over, get a little loop going. Okay, cool. So let's then start. Once I usually just make stuff in a loop like that, and then go straight back and just get 8 bars in, 8 bars and rolling basically. So you got this here, bish bash bosh, sound like Jamie Oliver making tunes. Okay, right. So I'm like, yeah, I like the sound of that. So let's like automate this a bit. So automation, Cubase, really easy. Just press R and W to write. Give that a wiggle. Turn the write off. Right click on there. Show used automation, and then instantly you've got it underneath. So you can like really open up it, back down. Just add the kick. Running. I obviously started making music first as Ben Westbeech as a singer and a producer, and then I made this tune called Fatherless as Breach, which was the first tune, and that's kind of crossed over into sort of a much more underground scene, and then I started making music as Breach. And yeah, I think I did have to unlearn some of your sort of musicality. You have to unlearn it a bit, because it's, you know, a lot of it's not about melody, it's just about a groove and a sort of and a feeling and a sort of vibe. So yeah, you have to unlearn it, because you know, you can't get too crazy on the chords. You know, sometimes you want to get like, I mean, I come from like quite a jazz background as well, so I'm like, oh, like want to hear those, like, you know, those ones, and then you're like, yeah, you kind of have to look at it from a different angle, a different approach. But then, you know, I started DJing when I was 12, so I've always been into really underground music, so I just sort of tapped into that and the sort of nostalgic feelings of when I was, you know, going to raves, or, you know, listening to rave tapes when I was 11, you know, just sort of, and then going back to that era and feeling like that same feeling that when you're making a tune that you had the first time you were hearing, you know, one of the tunes that made you inspired in a club for the first time, to sort of recreate that feeling in a studio sense. I mean, I'm just always like bouncing around here when I'm making beats. So we'll probably just use this section just to build this. Still quite a lot of low in this sound. So let's just use, you can see where the low is on that, so take a bit off. It's a bit quite, yeah, it's not too toppy, so it's nice. There's not too much top end frequency going on. And then so we want to get the bass line in somehow. Oh, this is quite interesting, because what's happened here, because I've chopped and pasted them, if this does happen, a good tool is right click and audio and just crossfade. So it will crossfade basically where I've chopped the audio, and I haven't, you know, been succinct about it or meticulous and seen where the audio stops. You're going to get cracks. So you just crossfade it, and that should, yeah, see the cracks have gone. So noisy, the tuno as a synth, so let's just like do a little bit of EQing. Yeah, cool. Still like some sort of little crack going, could be the end bit here. Yeah, so just if that happens. Another great thing about the Cubase, the audio in here, is I love how you can just really quickly do a fade like that. You know, it's as simple as that. That's like a really good, I think for me, working, because I work a lot in audio as well for recording vocals, which I do a lot, it's really great for how to record, and the sort of ease of use with audio is one of the key features, I think, in Cubase 7, or any of the Cubases really. Okay, so we've got a little vibe going into the kick, into the, not the bloody kick, the bass line. So then maybe the kick here, like you can hear it, do, 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 do. You can hear it instantly happening. Yeah, then add the hi-hats here. Woo! We're going, we're in, we're on the dance floor, we've done 7 E's, we're going in. I'm joking, don't do drugs, they are bad for you. Right, here we go. So intro, I kind of like that, this sound. Okay, so what we've got going on here is, yeah. So this sound here, so what I'm going to do is also, this is another thing interesting about battery and Cubase. Basically what I've done is you can set up in battery, if I open it here, yeah. If I go to the instruments window, basically on this button here, I don't know if you can see it, it's like a little arrow. This is all the inputs that you can activate with battery. So with me, I just turn the lot on because I don't know how many drums I'm going to have on a project. So basically if you turn those on, they will appear underneath your battery folder in Cubase. And so they're all turned on. So basically I've got this sound here, but I see it's coming out of 1. I don't want it coming out of 1 and 2 because I want to leave those 2 open and have everything else coming out of other ones. So I see that maybe, you know, 9 and 10 is free. So let's put it on the output of 9 and 10. Yeah, and now we've got it here, you see, so now I can, what I wanted to do was put some reverb on it as well, so we'll put the reverb on quickly. Let's see. There you go, so just a bit more air, a bit more room. And again, we're going to automate that exactly the same, so give it a wiggle. Show all used automation. There we go, and we can even carry that, I kind of like that sound carrying on. So yeah, lots of reverb for the drop. We could even have that carrying on there, I think. Yeah, it kind of carries it over nicely for one element that's going to be carrying on during the breakdown. Maybe a little bit too much. Yeah, cool. It's a little bit loud, so let's just turn it down. Cool. So maybe at this point we've got the bass line rolling. Okay, so I'm just going to copy and paste this up. So you've got then a canvas to work on. Because now I'm hearing like a lot of other elements like synths, like pads. So let's try and now what that is the dot for controlling battery, which you don't want, although it can do stuff like that. So actually that's quite an interesting point. Let's use the Doppler to control a retrolog, which is a Cubase synth. Let's see if we can do that. So let's create a retrolog track. We've got that there. And because the dark time is clocked internally with Cubase, it should, hopefully, play. Yeah, I mean, it sounds strange. So you can see that's actually controlling Retrolog. Let's go through some sounds. It's actually kind of strange, but kind of works for me. So it's kind of a weird sound. It's kind of cool. It's very strange though. I was thinking it could work for this. It's kind of cool. I really like it with the release down. It's creating some mad sort of noise, so let's just record that straight in. And the other thing, the MIDI will go straight in, so if you record that on Retrolog, if you can see what it's doing there. So then basically the dark time we've recorded that MIDI in. So I mean, it's not only can you record the audio straight in, it will also record the MIDI, which is really cool, because then you can take that MIDI and say, you know, if it's too low, or you can even do the inversion trick, like, and just invert them so they're a little bit, it's a little bit. If you want it like an octave down, bit down. Because also this thing might not create stuff which is in key with your song, so it's important to get the MIDI and then you can move it around, you know? Or you can even lengthen the notes. I mean, they're super short, these notes. Okay, let's just lengthen these out a bit, so. Oh, jeez. Let's get Retrolog up, turn it down, because it's very loud. Let's try a different preset in there. Okay, that's pretty cool. Again, I don't know if it's the right notes really for me, so. It's still not really working for me. I mean, you know, the dark time sometimes doesn't get results, so let's just play a line in through this instead of using the dark time just through MIDI. I usually sort of do, if I'm doing a pad for an intro, I try and make it work with the bass line as well, because then you can use it later on in the track if you so wish. try that an octave down. Yeah, and if you just press shift and the arrow button, it just goes straight down. Yeah, this sounds a little bit more buildy now, you know, like creating an atmosphere. Yeah, so I like that one. And then what I'll do, I'll copy these and have like, see, I like that low one. You can imagine like that one building there. So then you get a higher one for the next one. Yeah, I like the vibe on that. So straight away, solo, export, audio mix down, use the folder, use the project folder. Then that's in there. And then I've got, you know, so I kind of like that. It's kind of cool. Okay, so that is basically me starting a track. I mean, I hope it's given you into some sort of insight into how I sort of approach making music and some of the techniques I use going in and out of your computer and then obviously within the computer itself. Yeah, I hope it's been helpful to watch.